Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Hearthstone Championship Tour Europe Spring Preliminary. My name is TJ, and joining me on the desk for this next matchup is going to be Raven and Frank Lepore. We've seen some crazy decks today. We've seen Yogg Saron with Token Druid. We've seen some insane N'Zoth Paladin mirrors, which were exciting to say the least. Yeah, wouldn't you say, Frank? Do you like those N'Zoth Paladin mirrors?
There certainly was a lot of time to like them, if you get my meaning.
Yes, that is true. Raven, you've been enjoying the game so far?
Yeah, I think the games have been great. We've seen a really good mix as well of, say, even what we would deem sort of standard decks at the moment, and standard archetypes at least, and even have the players have their own slant on them. So it's been really interesting to me.
All right, well, let's move into the next matchup here. It is going to be Thijs taking on Dodje. And, of course, Thijs was one of your picks, your predictions at the beginning of the day.
Feeling good about it.
Frank, yeah, you're feeling good. This is an upper bracket match, so we're moving forward in this one. Dodje is a little bit more of an unknown player, but with some pretty known decks, I would say.
Yeah, although actually, like, Druid and Mage is not, like, super common, especially Druid. We've not seen too many of it.
Yeah, I was just going to say this is one of the few Druids we've seen today so far.
Yeah, and also, as you mentioned about Thijs, it's like, pretty easy to be confident whenever Thijs is your pick. He's one of the most consistent players in Hearthstone, I think.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty easy one there. And again, as you mentioned, Dodje has maybe a bit of a dodgy lineup in terms of Druid and Mage. I had to do it.
I see what you did there.
Yeah.
But Thijs is much more, say, standard lineup in terms of Shaman, Warlock, Warrior, Rogue, like super, pretty standard and popular decks at the moment.
Yeah, so we'll definitely have to see. Thijs, of course, the 2015 European champion, so he's no stranger to big events like this. He's sort of just like a happy-go-lucky guy. He's one of those players that'll never sort of rant or rage about things.
He's just always, whenever I've met him, he's just always smiling no matter what happens. He's just been knocked out of a tournament. It's like, how are you doing? He's like, yeah, I'm okay, thanks. Like,
it might be because he's always winning, though.
Yeah.
That's true, yeah. So it's very good to be happy when you're always winning.
It's hard to tilt when you don't lose a lot.
All right, well, we are jumping into the match. Game one between Dodje and Thijs, so I'm going to leave this in the hands of Raven and Frank. Enjoy the matches, guys.
Thanks, TJ. So it does look like it's going to be a Reno Warlock from Thijs versus a Druid that appears to be at least ramp heavy. We did see Nourish in Jackie Chan's deck last set, but I'm pretty confident it's probably not Token. It's probably not Token Druid here.
Quite a few legendary characters on the bottom here, the Reno Jackson and the Leroy Jenkins.
Yeah. A lot of the Reno Lock going for the burst version with the combo that we see quite commonly now, because again, as we mentioned earlier, one way to get around these like slow control decks is to actually just burst them down, so they can't really have time to react to like 20+ damage on the turn.
And it's so funny because when you look at the history of Hearthstone, like Leroy Jenkins was like literally everywhere.
Yep.
Then once the change, he was nowhere. You could people were dusting him left and right, and now he's back again.
Yeah, I've actually heard complaints that people are like, oh, I had to dust Leroy.
I wish I
had to dust Leroy. It's like, well, actually you didn't, but okay.
The value was too good.
Oh yeah, they wanted that dust. But this looks like a super sort of ramp late game Druid from Dodje here. As we see the Sunwalker, not too common of a card, but it looks very ramp and taunt heavy, and the Ysera obviously there for the late game. So
yeah, and like we said, we haven't seen many Druid lists today, so this is definitely something new that for us to display at least.
Yeah, there's still so many variants within the classes now that it's very difficult to just say he's playing Druid. It's definitely going to be this.
Yeah, and you know exactly
really
the archetype, right?
Yeah, and even seeing some cool cards from Thijs, something I actually am a big fan of Reno Lock. I enjoy the fact that it gives you a lot of room to play like fun cards in. And we see like even Kodo we know is a good card, but not one that's really been too common in the past.
I like playing one of everything because you just get to play more stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And you can fit like sort of cards that maybe wouldn't make the cut
like
in a super consistent
sort
of 2-of deck. But Reno really opens up the options, so it's really fun there. And we've seen Kodo do a hell of a lot of work in some of the Paladin matches we've seen, and they're even without the ability to humility a creature, it still has a lot of good targets.
There's tons of targets, yeah, completely.
And of no real surprise, Dodje goes for the ramp effect off the Maya Keeper because it doesn't need a 2/2.
Yeah,
we don't care about this when we're rocking Ysera and Solaris in hand.
There's no opposition right now, so a 3/3 will do fine if I can get a little bit of a tempo advantage in the game.
Yeah, we see Thijs.
Brian Kibler's favorite word, tempo.
We see Thijs just taking his time here, working out what he wants to do, because this turn isn't really great either way. He could drop Doomsayer and try and negate the 5-drop. But if the 5-drop is a Druid of the Claw, he could just charge it in and actually kill off the Doomsayer anyway. So he is going to tap and just play the Swampoos, which is pretty reasonable.
Also possible he doesn't play anything really, and then just trade the Doomsayer for the 3/3, which doesn't seem that great.
Yeah, exactly. You're not really doing too much, except maybe just stopping the Druid. You know, but if the Druid has like Nourish, then you're like, oh no.
Oh,
that was a pretty good.
You got a free turn to draw 3 cards.
Exactly. But you know, Thijs did choose to tap and just play the Swampoos, which was pretty good because Swampoos does challenge the Maya Keeper on the board, and it's not like you're holding that back for a weapon from a Druid.
That's a good cost. Like you're trading a 2 for a 3, so.
Exactly. Yeah. Dodje has a couple of options. It depends how bothered he is about the 3/3 dying to the Swampoos, or whether he just plays Druid of the Claw in Taunt potentially and just leaves the Swampoos alive. There's definitely a few options going around there, but if you leave the Swampoos up, you're definitely open to potential buff cards like Abusive Sergeant, Power Overwhelm.
Druid of the Claw, definitely one of the best cards in the Druid arsenal.
Yeah, and he's just going to clear off the 3. Not a surprise because Dodje's playing like Ramp Druid. He doesn't really need the game to be over super quickly, because if the game goes longer and he just starts dropping 9 and 10 mana minions, then it's going to get very crazy very fast. Like, I wouldn't even be too surprised if there's like a Yashar in this deck or something, because like he's clearly playing some quite late game cards here. Thijs again just not really drawing. He has a lot of tools,
just 10 cards
and a lot of answers to a lot of things, but not a good answer to a Druid of the Claw at the moment.
Yeah, nothing really that you're super like thrilled about playing here. You know, it's not. It's just a couple of. It's just a lot of like marginal options rather than one great option. You know.
Yeah, but it looks like he might be going for Demon Fire into.
No,
it's just picking.
Nope. Okay.
He's trying to wind us up now, and I'm gonna highlight every card and make the cast discuss it.
I'm gonna make them say something about every one of these choices.
Yeah, I mean, he looked over Demon Wrath there, but the problem is it opens up like a Shadow Bolt next turn, because this is the real issue for Thijs. If he was on 6 mana, he'd just Emperor and be like, yeah, you know, crack on.
Emperor would be fantastic here.
But instead, he does have to Doomsayer, and he can't even tap because he would actually overdraw the following turn.
Like having 9 cards with Emperor and it's just, wow, that's a lot of discounts.
Yeah, especially when one of the cards is faceless, because in this deck, you actually want Emperor to hit at least one of the 3 combo pieces, Power Overwhelming, Leroy, or Faceless. If you can hit more, fantastic, of course. But if you can hit at least one, you know you can do your combo on 10 mana, which is really important. But Dodje's just going to ramp again, just going to Wild Growth. And,
I mean, he has a Sarah in hand. It's not a terrible idea.
That's all this deck cares about. He's going to Wrath and just trade away the Doomsayer. Thijs, quick nod. Yeah, okay. Yeah, it made you Wrath, which is like, you know, at least half a bonus. The turn was quite slow. There wasn't like another big minion that came down.
It's a 1-for-1 and it prevents 4 damage. So. Yeah.
And there's Power Overwhelming, so Emperor will get some work done now as it reduces the Faceless and the Power Overwhelming, reduce the Power Overwhelming to 0 mana, so that's pretty nice.
If you're looking at it just by his hand alone, that's a 9 mana discount. Like,
yeah, Emperor's a good card.
Yeah, this card was amazing. Like, I remember when Emperor first was released, it was just like, wow, this card is fantastic.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. When I first saw Emperor, I actually thought it only did it was like a battle cry. It only did it once. And I was like,
no, and it's like every turn.
Are you telling me if this doesn't die? Okay,
it was terrifying because you're like, I need to get this off the board right now.
Well, what's scary is it just hitting once is actually enough.
It's so
good. Most of the time, like, especially in a deck like Reno Lock, where you normally do have quite a large hand to begin with, but again, it's just rough because Thijs just doesn't have a really good answer. He probably wouldn't have even minded like a Twisting Nether being reduced and then just slam Twisting Nether this turn and get rid of the taunts.
Especially because there's a 4/5 and 4/1. Like, both of those guys are very, very good.
Yeah. And the Divine Shield are obviously causing issues. Demon Wrath will remove the Divine Shield and kill off the Druid of the Claw and just leave a 4/5 on the board, which seems pretty okay. Yeah. You just want to reduce the damage, right? Because you will draw into what you need eventually as Reno, because you're going to try and tap every turn as well, but his hand just is a little bit clunky, but I think he needs to... he could have tapped into Coil, and then... would he have had too many cards? Just because he Demon Wrath the 1 health minion, and like Coil would have been nicer a little bit earlier.
He's got 10 right now, so...
He does clear it up with Shadow Bolt and the Coil. So the Coil gets some work done, which is nice. And that was actually a really good outcome for Thijs overall.
Lord Jiraxis.
just having the cards he needed to just deal with that board, because it was slowly getting a little bit out of control, and with no twisting there's no like, you know, emergency switch.
Yes,
and
and
you
also
can just reset the board.
He managed to end the turn with 9 cards, so he does get to actually draw a card next turn rather than
always
just,
a bonus.
Yes. It's always frustrating when you have 10 and it just disappears.
Yeah, so now we find out what kind of player Dodje actually is in terms of what Ysera card he gets, because I always get the 3/5, and everyone else I play against seems to actually just get Ysera Awakens when I'm on 5 health.
Like it's indicative of like the caliber of player you are.
Yeah, exactly. So you know, I must be terrible because I always get the terrible cards, and everyone else must be fantastic. But the Emerald Drake, I would say, is somewhere in between. A 4-mana 7/6 is actually reasonable stats.
Yeah, not bad.
But also, I feel like it's one of the less flexible cards, right?
That's a pretty good mini to make a copy of, I would imagine.
Yeah, and he can silence off his opponents. What this does is this removes the sort of 20 damage burst potential that Thijs is able to do because the Faceless Manipulate is gone. But having it, Thijs is a good player. Got Ysera Awakens.
What do you think of the positioning of that?
Yeah, so what this does is this actually stops the Ysera just getting an easy trade into the Spellbreaker.
So he has to just kill the Ysera. Okay.
Yeah, he did get mulched though, and Thijs shake of the head because he saw it was straight off the top. That was what?
Oh! What? The random minion is another
3
Ysera.
mana sap.
What? What are the odds of that?
Thijs needs to just snap play Ysera next turn just to say
yes, still have
yes,
it. Yep.
Dodje, this happened.
Thank you. What are the odds of that?
Especially in the last set, we saw him mulch into Abusive Sergeant. So
that's
you know,
so
like,
much worse.
That comparable to a Ysera into a Ysera is kind of nuts.
Oh my god, I can't even handle that. That's so exciting.
And also, there's it's still going to require a trade and a potential swipe if he's bothered about the 2/3. But yeah, I imagine the Drake's going to not really care too much about this 2/3 here and just going to go for the Shapeshift and attack phase for 1. And this is still kind of scary.
Even if it doesn't affect the board in any way, just the fact that he
just the fact that he got
Ysera
it, yeah.
into another Ysera is just hilarious to me.
Yeah, this is going to be awkward though, because this Ysera, his enemy's Ysera doesn't take damage from Ysera Awakens because it's still a Ysera.
Yes.
Regardless of who controls it. So that 4/8 is still, you know, a problem that Thijs actually does have to deal with at some point.
Oh yeah, definitely.
The 7/6 maybe a little bit easier, but still, it's definitely going to be a tough one as there's so much power on board, and Thijs really has to manage his resources here. As I maybe don't think just dropping Ysera is the best idea.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's actually not the best play here, but it would be a sweet play.
Okay, he might actually hit and go for the Shadow Flame here. He actually hit into Ysera for the 2. Unless he wants to take the do the 6 damage to face instead. But he can actually just clear the board with the Shadow Flame. So, is he going to hit? I mean, he doesn't really have too many options. He could do the damage to face and then play like the 3-mana Hellfire, but 3-mana Hellfire is really just doing 2 damage to Ysera, and maybe there's a better use for it later.
I like this play a lot, though.
So this is good, yeah.
It clears your board for Ysera. You still get a 3/3. You're up to 20 again. Like, that was a great turn.
Yeah, and this game's so crazy. It's like
hand is 8 cards.
The typical win condition of Thijs' Warlock is gone.
Right.
He got Ysera, he got mulched, he got Ysera again.
Yes.
So Thijs is probably now, and he has Draxus in hand. He's playing for the long game.
So do we play Ysera here?
It's a tough one because he does have other options. So Kodo actually just straight up kills one of the 2/2 taunts.
Right.
And there isn't too many targets in Ramp Druid for Kodo to hit, to be fair. So maybe you just take that while you can.
Yeah, take the advantage while you can.
And he does have Defender of Argus, which he could buff up the Kodo. Oh, nice.
Oh,
okay.
I like that a lot.
Oh, you can do the swag play and just brand Kodo both taunts and leave the 3/3 on the board to just push. Remove the armor from the hero powers.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, that's actually really nice. And the odds on all 3 minions getting cleared are quite low for Thijs, so it looks like he can build into maybe an Argus next turn.
Man, this game alone is making me feel good about my choice of picking Thijs for our prediction board over there.
Yeah, when you can get a mulch Ysera into Ysera, it normally bodes pretty well.
Even the bronze into double Kodo triggers, like that's just great.
Yeah, it's really good use of Kodo, and again, that's probably a nod to why it's the inclusion in this deck. Kodo's pretty good by itself, as we've seen in a few other decks, but also Brand Kodo can actually just lock down a lot of more aggressive decks with lower attack minions.
What to do?
So this is a tough one for Dodje. I feel like he just has to Wild Growth here. because there's nothing else that really feels great. Like
Just gets a free card.
Well, Cenarius can kill off the 3/5 if he wants. He can just swipe Brand to stop any Brand shenanigans happening next turn. But yeah, I feel like he just needs some more big minions. He must have them in the deck.
if you will.
Brananigans, brilliant. So there's so there we go.
Yeah,
so Ancient of War,
yeah.
this is the sort of stuff he needs to draw into. Is Ramp Druid, the whole point is you want to just drop massive minions that your opponent just doesn't have enough.
Now we're
answers
getting
to.
the 2/2.
Yep. Yep.
No longer need a mana crystal at this point, as you can imagine.
Yep. The 2/2 actually, challenges the 3/2. Although there's probably not really a world where the 3/2 doesn't go into the 3/3 anyway. The Farseer, so.
Ty's still with a ton of options though. Like his hand is still stacked.
Yep. So he uses the Farseer in Hellfire at last. So, hold on to Hellfire instead of doing the sort of weird play to get extra damage to face early is paid off for Thijs. And just presenting Sylvanas onto the board normally feels pretty good against a Ramp Druid. There's nothing you really want to give them with Sylvanas. It's kind of awkward.
He's still holding Reno Jackson, so like, even if this game gets a little bit more out of reach, he can just gain infinite life.
Yeah.
Reset to 30.
Feral Rage is a card I really like. Like +8 armor or +4 attack on any given turn is really nice and really cool. And we see there,
both great options.
With the addition of the hero power, just actually remove Sylvanas, and he can still follow up with the Ancient of War and present another threat to Thijs.
Oh, well, that's going to do something eventually. I'm not sure if he's going to use it now. He might.
This might be the Ysera turn, to be honest, because
you're not going to. He can't trade, and if he goes to the face, puts you to 9, you can just play Reno, go back up to 30. Like,
yeah,
options are good.
Ramp Druid isn't really known for burst damage.
Right.
You've seen a swipe already. You've seen a Druid of the Claw, so they're the sort of on-demand damage. So I wouldn't have actually minded Ysera, although tapping into a Siphon Soul against the 5/10 also works. Second PO is pretty nice. You can still combo it with the Leroy for a sort of 10 damage burst from hand for only 6 mana. Well, you could do 15 with Ysera Awakens all in one turn. So suddenly, in all seriousness, the burst plays back on for Thijs.
Yeah, it seems like Dodje just keeps trying to catch up, but it's just not working.
Yeah, I think like if we sort of rewind a few turns, this is definitely going to help the Nourish for 3 cards. It's pretty huge.
Agreed.
But if you go back in time a few turns, his hand was all spells and no big minions. And with Ramp, you want to just slam big minions every single turn.
You don't want to be
like the
responsive
Ancient of
when you're
War,
ramping
like
your
the
mana.
Sunwalker, yeah. So still, Dodje probably what he's just thinking about dropping the Druid of the Claw here. There's not too much else for it really, unless you're really worried about this 2/2. But it's a tough one. It really interesting to see how Dodje decides to either think about playing around potential burst damage, because he knows there's still a Ysera card in hand.
Right, yeah.
And if it was the Dragon or the 3/5, why would Thijs not have played the minion?
Right,
I'm pretty sure he's had the mana,
yeah.
if he wanted to. Like, why would you not play a 7/4 for 4 mana? Or, even the 3/5 that's untargetable is really nice.
And the other thing is he doesn't know that the mulch target is another Ysera. So
yeah, exactly. There's definitely a lot that Dodje has to think about in terms of unknown cards in Thijs' hand.
Well, the other thing is Dodje could actually just think that he played maybe the creature that was mulched,
Yeah, I mean, he would have to.
You actually have no idea.
Yeah, if he pays attention, it actually tells you when you play the card where it was from.
Oh, yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
But in a situation like this, you were against Thijs. You're under a lot of pressure.
So you might just not even notice
if that information just swings past and you miss it and you're like, oh no, did he play something? I can't remember. What did he do? And then suddenly you can get a little bit worried. Exactly. So there's the PO from the Dark Peddler and Ysera follow-up. You're probably not going to get a clearer board.
Do we know how many cards Thijs has in his deck?
Not a lot, but he does have Reno and he has Draxus.
Yeah, so I guess you do have quite a few fatigue turns.
Yeah, and especially there might even be a case that he could even Draxus before Reno. There's 8 cards left in Dodge's deck as well, so both running pretty low. Obviously, Thijs definitely a bit lower, 2 cards
6 to 8
ahead. But there might even be a case to play Lord Draxus before Reno because, having a 3-attack weapon that's got that many charges is it's not really going to get one away in this matchup, but also creating the 6/6 for 2 mana every turn puts your opponent under so much pressure that it might actually be worth more than healing back up to 30.
The Draxus hero power is just very, very good.
Yeah, it's not too shabby.
I've seen worse.
So again, this is so awkward when you're behind as this Druid here. He just plays Rag. If Rag hits Ysera,
you go to
it kind of has done nothing this turn. Do you know what I mean? Because Ysera's still very much alive.
Still a 4/4. It's still fine.
Yeah, it's still very much alive. It means Ty's going to get an additional card. But this, oh, and it does as well. So I think Dodje would have really liked to put him to 2 to stop a life tap. But we can see that obviously by now, and Dodje must expect this by now, Reno's almost certainly in hand, right?
Like you're just biding your time here if you're Ties. You take it to the safest amount possible before you can play Reno, and then you just gain your life back.
Yep. Yeah, Tice has a few options this turn. He could actually just Reno Senjin and just be like, okay, there's 3 targets now. I gain another card from Ysera. I'm on full health. And yeah, Rag's alive, but I have 3 minions and a 30 health face. So even if it's face, you're probably okay because you have Draxus. Yeah, and you have Draxus as well.
You have a very safe cushion, to say the least.
Looks like it's going to be Awakened.
Oh, interesting. He's just trading with Rag.
Yeah, it's always an option, and really interesting if he goes for the Refreshment Vendor. So he chose not to Reno this turn and just go for Refreshment Vendor.
He's just stalling
into this engine. Well, what burst is going to come out from the Druid?
Right, yeah, that's a good point.
And he's just seen Rag. So that's 8 damage out of nowhere that he doesn't have to play around anymore.
Yeah, it's once you start calculating like what cards are left and how much damage can possibly be dealt, it's a lot safer to play. You can just probably hold Reno for quite a while unless something goes awry here.
Yep, there's a lot of options for Tice next turn, and Dodje is just going to play the Ancient of War again, just present a large threat that actually just deals with both minions already on the board. But we see Dark Arakoa in Dodge's hand in there. I believe this deck doesn't have Cthulhu in it, but you know what?
Yes,
He's 6
it's
mana,
still
5/7.
6 mana, 5/7. Yeah, with
that's a
taunt.
pretty good taunt creature in a ramp druid.
Yeah, I saw that earlier in certain lists, and I was like, well, that didn't have Cthulhu, but I guess this guy's just great on stats alone.
Yeah, it's similar to the 3/2 in the previous match in Tempo Mage list, right? It's a 3/2 with spell power that has Cthulhu buffs, but you don't run Cthulhu because you just think that 3/2 is actually a good card in itself and worthwhile. Tice draws into his Mountain Giant, something we've been seeing more and more in Reno Warlock recently, as some gaps have opened up, and mainly in the form of Molten Giant, because it was nerfed after Standard, so not too common a place, but Mountain Giant is making a comeback.
Is this the time? Is it Reno time? Oh, we are going to be rich. 21 life.
Yep, why not? It allows him to play the Drake as well, and also Druid doesn't really have much AoE. So it's going to be a tough one. There is a swipe there.
There's a swipe. That's his last one,
He can kill off this engine, but there's definitely a lot of awkward minions to deal with. And a lot of awkward health totals, 6/5 and another 6 as well. So it's going to be tough.
You know what they say. Toastingo.
I'm just waiting. Does Dodje pick Mulch? Mulch a second Ysera.
Just get him a note.
Oh my god, I would just be like, okay, Tice, you win this round.
I'd probably go home for the day. I'm like, that's
I am
it.
Done. So he does go for the Mulch. Like, Mulch is really good to just straight up removes a minion, but also he's going to remove the 7/6. Is Tice going to be just as lucky with the last one?
I'm so curious.
Oh,
that's
okay.
Not
so
as good.
That's like just Tice hit both ends of the scale.
That's like the exact opposite of
yeah,
a Ysera.
exactly. So the Elven Archer, 1 mana, deal 1 damage, Battlecry. It's a 1/1.
I feel like it's going to have a big impact here.
Sometimes you just want 1 damage on demand, right? Like sometimes it isn't terrible.
You're not wrong. I feel like this position in the game right now is probably not the exact moment where it's going to be at its best.
Yeah,
You could play Leroy and then kill one of the dragons, but
yeah, I'm wondering whether you actually you might just Twisting Nether here.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
You could just kill 1 taunt. You're on 30 health. You're in no rush. You're not going to die.
And then just
you could kill 1 taunt, let him commit more, and then Twisting Nether. But also, like, I would be okay. Like 2 massive taunt creatures.
Like 2 5/7s is not really easy.
And just call it a day. But
throwing out a Mountain Giant is interesting. I'd probably save this for the empty board.
Yeah, but I think the idea here is Tice has Draxus. Tice has Leroy. Like, if his opponent trades minions, then he's probably pretty okay with it, right? Like, how does the Druid ever win this matchup? Tice is on 30 health, and the Druid can normally only drop 1 minion per turn.
Yeah, that's a good
He's
point,
representing
actually.
so much damage on board, and Swipe is actually going to get some work done here, which means he can clear up
Another
and just leave the 2/3 alive. But again, the 2/3 when you're going to drop a Sunwalker or a Dark Arakoa, not really too threatening.
And then there was a 2/2. But at least Argus is defended, which is nice.
Yeah.
You gotta look out for Argus.
I think it's an interesting pick now for Dodje. I think the Arako is correct because the Sunwalker's shield, the Divine Shield, he's going to get procced because there's a minion on the board,
Yeah,
right?
you're just going to hit him.
It's just guaranteed,
yeah.
whereas if you play it when your opponent doesn't have minions that can easily target it,
then you're going to get free
Warlock's
hit
very
usually.
difficult, although we can see in the Elven Archer, Thijs is the perfect tool to proc a Divine Shield.
That's actually, wouldn't it be funny if that was just ends up being like the perfect play?
Yeah. It does look like an Elven Archer might come down now just to ping off, and as we said earlier,
Oh,
the
here we go.
one damage helps sometimes.
Still looking great for Thijs here.
Yeah, I mean, he is. I believe he is still just a little bit ahead on cards. Nourish is not really what you're after this late in the game.
You definitely don't want to draw 3 cards here.
Because especially with Lord Jaraxxus in the deck, which Dodje will be fully aware of, you do not really want to run this match to fatigue because it's like 6/6 for 2 mana every turn. He's going to beat you.
Also, he knows Thijs has like 2 or 3 cards left, so the odds of him having Jaraxxus either in hand or even in his last 2 cards is guaranteed. So
yeah, I mean, Thijs is going to draw his deck this game unless there's a concede early. You know, like unless he's just like, okay, I can see where this is going. Concede.
Oh, and that all cards are known now. So
yeah, I was a little bit worried. I heard the job's done there from Thijs and thought he wasn't going to proc the shield. I was like, Thijs, please. His Ragnaros does go face though, so the 4/5 is still alive. But Sylvanas, not a bad draw when there's Ragnaros on the
27
board.
life though. I think that's good. I think that's.
Hey, if that rag hits Sylvanas and then you steal the rag back, suddenly the switch is looking pretty okay for Dodje.
The swings are going to be real when that happens.
I think Thijs is still feeling very confident though, because Twisting Nether is just a straight up done. Like, let's just reset the board. Yeah, Thijs is just going to drop his hand here. Why not?
Yeah, you have nothing to lose now.
The rag. Oh, okay.
Not.
I think that's fine because it means it's very difficult for Sylvanas to kill itself. And if it runs into the rag, there's obviously only a 1 in 3 chance it steals Ragnaros. And if it does that, then the Ragnaros will be weakened anyway, so a little bit easier to deal with.
Yeah, if he gets an 8/3 Ragnaros, it's a lot easier to handle. Like, you can just run your 3/3 into it. That's not a big deal.
Yep, looks like he is going to clear up the 3/3 and then put Sylvanas onto the 4/4.
Yeah, Dodge's hand's not great. He's got an Innervate and a Nourish. Like, the Nourish is, like we said, you don't really want to draw 3 cards at this point, and the Innervate is just basically a blank.
Yeah, this is a really strange situation, to be honest. And we can see there, Thijs is just trying to... Whenever this happens and like fatigue comes into play, you have to start thinking how many turns, 5, 6 turns ahead and work out how it's actually going to play out. Because you can work it out a lot of the time. He does have Jaraxxus, and he is going to go face. His opponent is only on 11, so if Jaraxxus goes face, it potentially sets up lethal. It isn't, though, and it is going to steal.
Oh, that's a little scary.
Yeah, what's one of the last cards here? I can't see because he's hovering over it. Whoa! Oh, okay. Starfire face. And he's going to draw into his cairn as well. He's 1 off.
Is that game?
Because
he's gonna lose to fatigue.
Yeah, of course. Fatigue will happen.
Wow, I did not see that coming.
That game was so...
I thought Thijs had that game from like turns ago.
Yeah, that game was so strange. I mean, again, there's not really too many pure ramp druids versus Reno Lux I've seen too often. But yeah, it's very strange. There just wasn't too many minions in hand early on for Dodje.
Yeah.
But he just managed to just run Thijs out of juice. And I think one of the issues was because Thijs waited quite a while for Jaraxxus, there was never a good moment to get it out. And when you're already taking fatigue damage, then you set yourself to 15.
And like if you had Jaraxxus out sooner, you could start making 6/6s more consistently so that you actually have an offensive. But at this point, he just had no creatures. Like he had no minions to actually pressure Dodje with. Like it just there was nothing there.
Yeah, really cool deck from Dodje there, seeing like just a full-on ramp druid, and he does have Mage and Shaman left with Rogue banned out, whereas Thijs still has his Reno Lock that we saw in that game, his Warrior and his Shaman. So, it's only game 1. That was a nice fast-paced game for us.
The game was exciting though. Like there were so many swings. Like I actually thought Thijs had that game. I was like, okay, well, Dodje has no real cards left. But then once he steals the Ragnaros, like, well, that's going to finish you off because you have
casual
fatigue damage.
8 damage a turn.
Yeah, just a casual 8 damage. No big deal.
Yeah, I think one of the big points in that matchup was the Faceless being used. It was a good Faceless, but it did just just remove that 20 damage burst out of nowhere, but also to bear in mind versus the Ramp Druid, there's so many taunts in the deck. The odds on getting just Leroy, Power Overwhelming, Faceless, 20 to face are quite low, but we are going to see a Shaman versus Shaman game as we go into
Shaman
game 2 of
match.
Tice versus Dodje. And you say, yeah, definitely Shaman Mirror, but these decks look a little bit different.
These decks look a little different, yes.
Yeah, so off the top here, Tice looks like he's playing a fairly aggressive list with Flame Juggler and Flameweed Faceless. And also Earthshock is something you don't normally see too often in mid-range Shaman because they just run double Hex and say, that's my form of Earthshock. I'm just going to turn it into a little frog. Whereas Dodje is running, as we can see, 2 Lightning Storms, so not too wild, but Halazil the Ascended, which is a Shaman legendary from the new set, which I am completely honest, have never casted a game in competitive
I've never
play.
cast that card either. But it's in response to Earthshock, I was going to say now that the Ironbeak Owl has his wings clipped, it's a little...
Yeah, okay.
You got to silence things somehow, I guess.
So I think I've just realized which deck this is from Dodje. This is the OTK deck. It has Wind Fury.
Oh,
so I'm pretty sure.
interesting.
Yeah, hence look at the healing as well. This all makes sense. So his plan.
This could be exciting.
His plan, I believe, is he has Leroy in the deck, and then he just Rock Biter, Wind Fury, and just YOLO kill someone basically. Yeah, and just kill him. But and he clearly has a lot of defensive measures as well because he wants the game to go late.
Right, so you can
draw the combo.
Yeah, so you can assemble your combo.
Yep. So Rock Biter Weapon, really good answers just straight off to this 2-3. Also, the Wild Pyro can do a lot of work if you can chain a couple of spells. Even a Lightning Storm with Wild Pyro down does some work because it kind of removes the low roll of 2 from Lightning Storm that can sometimes mess you up a little bit.
Yeah, the Overload, obviously that's the biggest drawback of the Shaman decks, but if you're able to mitigate that, it's usually you're getting a very, very high return on your investment.
Yeah, that Eternal Sentinel in Tice's hand is going to do some work going forward. It's really interesting, these like aggro Shamans, the way the deck's just slightly altered a little bit. And it's cool that like more aggressive styles play the Eternal Sentinel, where the more mid-range styles just deal with overload.
Yeah, so
they're just like, oh, okay, I'll be overloaded.
That's fine, I'll have 2 on my turn 5.
Well,
it's not a big
when
deal.
the game plan revolves around like hero powering quite often, just to build a board of totems, and that's fine, right?
Right, so you just take a turn off, make a totem.
Yeah.
Pass.
Dodge's drawing to Lightning Bolt. You can see how the burst potentially is going to come out of this deck. I imagine there's an Emperor in here somewhere as well. So all just cheap extra damage, and he is going to pay a Rock Bioweapon to deal with this 2-3. Oh no, he'll kill the 3-3 now because of the 1 damage from the Wild Pyro. And then the Pyro does trade into the 2-2 going forward. And, he's just going to play super defensive. And also with Healing Wave, I imagine he has quite a high chance to win the Joust to get the actual plus 14 health. And just really stall out the game. And Tice can't actually play his Feral Spirit. As we were discussing, he is overloaded this turn.
14 health is nothing to sneeze at. It's basically... I mean, you got to think of when you play Reno Jackson, like a lot of times it's probably around 14. I mean,
it's like 14 to 20, right?
14 to 20 would be, yeah.
Yeah, so there is a Argent Squire option, or just Eternal Sentinel into Argent Squire just to build up the board, but I'm pretty sure Tice is going to have to just push, use the 2-2 to trade off the Wild Pyro. I don't think it's something he can really get away with leaving up. So we are going to see the Eternal Sentinel here, and almost certainly the Argent Squire, unless he could actually use a Lightning Bolt if he really wants.
Yeah, just get rid of the 3 and keep his 2-2 alive. Like, that makes sense.
Yeah, he could use Earthshock if he really wanted, but I think there are probably better targets to actually silence
he
on.
He doesn't use Eternal Sentinel. Maybe he does both. Just Argent Squire 1-1? Or Argent Squire 1 damage? Yeah, I guess. All right.
Yeah, this is fine. Like, it keeps it. So using the Lightning Bolt basically means that this minion will gain more damage over time by being alive.
Yes.
Lightning Bolt will always do 3, maybe 4 if there's spell power on the board, but this minion will just deal more damage over time. So the sort of drawback of using a Lightning Bolt is outweighed by the damage you'll gain.
Acolyte of Pain, probably one of my favorite cards. I just like drawing cards, so if there's a way to deal this guy 3 damage, draw 3 cards over time, I'm very much okay with it.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting how Tice chooses to play this matchup. He's aware of this kind of wacky OTK Shaman list, and he might actually choose to, I was going to say Earthshock the Acolyte, because you know how you deal with big combo decks? Don't let them draw it.
Yes, you don't. You shut down their combo.
That's normally a good plan, to just not let them draw more cards to get to their combo.
And the wording on that is great because it says silence them, then deal 1 damage.
Yep.
If it was reversed, you'd still draw the card.
Yeah, and there's that Shaman Legendary we saw earlier on Halaziel. Nothing too much to do with it now, which is, I guess, one of the issues in this the board state Dodje is. He is going to Hero Power into Lightning Storm to try and clear this down. And you know, save the Legendary for later when you can get way more impact than just playing a 4/6 on the board. Doomhammer on 5, though, it normally feels pretty nice, especially with the fact that he can follow up with the Feral Spirit if he really wants. Is Thijs actually going to go for the Feral Spirit instead of Doomhammer here?
Looks like it.
So, again, I don't have the deck list in front of me for Dodje, but I imagine that he might be running Hearthstone or an Ooze, and Thijs doesn't really want to just
Play a
Doomhammer with nothing to back it up with,
yeah,
and then it
sense.
just gets destroyed instantly and he's back to square one.
Especially because this is a rough use of mana too. Like you could have used 5 and used all your mana, and then have it all unlock next turn. Whereas this turn, you only use 3 of it, and next turn you only get 3 of it.
Yeah, well here he can't Doomhammer next turn, so he's just guaranteed
exactly.
that he's not going to make the play.
And you just draw a second Doomhammer, man.
Yeah, that was really interesting to me actually, because I just think Doomhammer was just a clear choice that turn.
Yeah, I feel like it was a little cautious. You know, because again, like now you just can't play Doomhammer. Like if you drew even a 5 or a 6 drop this turn, you would have still been able to play it. But with the Feral Spirit, you're just not able to do that.
Yeah, it's just the way it lined up. You could Doomhammer first and then always Feral Spirit afterwards. But you know, hey, I'm pretty sure Thijs knows what he's doing. I've told he's a pretty reasonable player, so who am I to argue? Just an interesting decision. And now Halaziel is down, and yep, looks like Thijs is going to tank that. He does not want the ridiculous feeling that can
take
come
the
out from
Legendary
this
off
guy.
the board as soon as you can.
Abusive Sergeant doing his job, just buffing up a friend so he can get some work done.
Even
nice.
if your friend's a totem with 0 attack.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with having totems as friends. Shaman have them all.
That's true. That's a good point.
Everybody loves a good totem now and again. And speaking of which, there's Flame Tongue Totem to help Thijs push a little bit more damage. And I'm pretty sure, after seeing Halaziel gone, he's aware there's Healing Wave in the deck, so on and so on. But he needs to do something, right? Like he needs to hope he maybe top decks into a Rockbiter weapon, takes one off the top to be able to just finish this game out. Because otherwise,
it's
if Dodje just stabilizes, then it's going to be very, very difficult for Thijs.
Yeah, the thing is you have to always be aware of the combo. You know, you have to always be aware of the fact that you could just lose out of nowhere. Obviously the taunt totem is a little deterrent, but not much.
Yeah, and kind of an awkward turn for Dodje here. He's going to hex or he looked like he was going to hex a Flame Tongue Totem, which, it does remove for like 4 attack off the board effectively, and but it does, just stack up a second taunt.
Oh, did not win.
No, 7 health still okay though.
Yeah,
that's the good thing about Healing Wave, right? Like 3 mana heal 7 isn't terrible in any aspect, and it just pushes him further out of that Doomhammer range.
I feel like I think the Hex is fine in this position, but I feel like that's just never what you want to do.
Oh, yeah.
Like that's not an ideal use of Hex to use it on a totem, but it is what it is.
Hey, all Dodje wants to do is win Fury that Leroy. That is all he is concerned about.
Undoubtedly.
And this is pretty okay for Thijs, actually. The Doomsayer comes down. Well, you know what? I didn't have any minions to play anyway, I lose a Hex.
Let it happen.
A Hexed minion, a Totem, and a 2/1. So that's fine. I'll just take the hits and carry on from there. So drawing Stormcrack, pretty pointless when Stormcrack can only target minions and not face. So
there's Leroy and Windfury, so we can actually we can 12 here, but that's not enough.
Yep, Totem Golem's not a bad draw for Thijs, but I'm pretty confident that's just going to get Stormcrack next turn. Dodge's probably like, awesome, you've played a minion I can kill.
Thank you for giving me a target.
Yep, I imagine, is there going to be the re-equip Doomhammer? Yep, you may as well just put the Overload into that turn and not delay it anymore. It opens up more choices next turn if he has actually got, what, 9 damage? So he is really close to just finishing this game, and Dodje doesn't have any healing.
We're getting to a point where, the overloads aren't even relevant. Like, once you get to the late game, it's...
Yeah, but and there are so many cards Thijs can just draw now to just win him the game, and does it... Yeah, Abusive does it, right?
5, 6...
Yeah, it's 11.
Yeah, that's Xaxes. Yeah, that'll do it.
Yeah, no, what a crazy game, and...
2, 4, 6, 5, yep.
I can, I'm looking forward to actually seeing more of Dodge's Shaman list, but this is, I guess, what happens when you don't have too much card draw.
Oh, wait, it wasn't Xaxes, it was 1 more because of the spell damage. Dang it.
Yeah, the spell damage tone was an extra effect there, so that's quite nice. But as I was saying, I want to see more of this Shaman deck because seeing Leroy with like Rock Pyre Wind Fury is kind of crazy.
It's just kind of cool, right?
Yeah, but we saw the definite downside there of lack of card draw overall. He was basically top decking after he just had Wind Fury and Leroy in hand for so long.
Right.
But he was just playing it whatever came off the top and hoped it was good enough. And like when one of them is Stormcrack with no minions on board, you're just like, okay,
right,
hero power pass.
And then the thing is, like, when you're looking at, you have Leroy and Wind Fury, like, these cards are fine, but without the rest, like, it's just not enough, right? You don't want to just commit a Leroy to the board and just deal 6 or even 12 when it doesn't kill them, because then it's just,
exactly.
No, I'm out of gas now, so.
And also Thijs, I think, although it looked kind of wonky at the time of drawing the second Doomhammer before he played the first one.
Yes.
It did actually work out pretty well in the end, as it's just so much damage
It's so much.
time.
It's 4 damage a turn, and then it's like at 1,000,000 durability. It might as well have like 30 durability.
Yep. So Thijs has evened it up with the Shaman now. It's just it's 1-1, and he still has his Reno Lock that we saw in the first game. Yep. He has his Warrior, and Dodje has his Mage and his Shaman again. But
it's looking at 1-1 now.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Like this Shaman pick. Any player who's like these guys are obviously very serious about the game. They're playing in the preliminary. They want to make it.
It's the impression I get.
Yeah, they want to make it to the World Championships. But bringing this Shaman deck just seems so crazy because Shaman feels like one of the strongest classes overall. It's one of the highest picked for this tournament this weekend. And the variations of like face and mid range seem so powerful. To go like off to one side and pick a combo Shaman variant seems very brave to me.
Yeah,
very brave.
Oh yeah. It's like you're swimming against the current. You know,
yeah.
It's just not. It's that kind of thing is not done around here.
Yeah, kind of crazy, but we are going into the second game now of Dodje versus Thijs. Thijs has his what appears to be the mid-range warrior versus Dodje's OTK Shaman, and the thing with this is because Thijs is aware of what Shaman this is.
Right.
You can play this matchup by like stacking up armor smiths and just building a lot of armor. Okay, you can do a hell of a lot.
You can do
damage
35, but can you do 70?
Yeah. There'll be so much, but also just the speed in which Thijs can put on pressure with cards like just Monkey into Korkron or into the Bloodhoof that we can see he has in hand. This deck is just relentless, and it's whether Dodje can have enough sort of board clear and removal to just slow it down to be able to take the win there. So it's kind of rough, and the second Bloodhoof is definitely going to help Thijs just pile on.
I think we mentioned earlier that Warrior was one of the highest represented archetypes on the field. You know.
Yeah, Warrior's the highest picked.
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely a reason for that. The deck is very well rounded.
Yep, so we are going to see the War Axe, and Thijs there just saying, you know what, it's a 3-attack weapon, but I'm okay just killing off the totem. Because what this does as well, just a bit of a small thing, this puts Thijs immediately to 29 health, which means that Battle Rage, unless his opponent heals him for some reason, because he's damaged, Battle Rage will always draw a card off the warrior itself, off the character, as well as any other damaged minions, which is actually a pretty big deal.
There's the old Acolyte of Pain again. Which is interesting, because you usually see the Acolyte of Pain out of the Warrior list. So...
Yeah, it's kind of funny, isn't it? Like
a little reversal of roles here.
Shaman isn't really known for the Acolyte, but as we can see, he's running Mana Tide as well. So there is a lot of card draw in the deck. It's just that Thijs was able to remove the Acolyte with the Earth Shock, so it drew 0. It didn't even draw 1 card, which normally you're like, okay, 1 card, not great, but okay.
Yeah, it was actually a great play.
0, and then and he didn't draw a Mana Tide, as far as I recall. So just didn't get that didn't get that card draw he needed early on. And
we definitely have the totem here, so that's nice.
Yeah, rolling the Taunt Tome was actually pretty huge, because it just otherwise this Doomsayer would have just died to Korkron and the Monkey.
Yeah, this actually is a weird position, because now do you just play another guy and not kill the Doomsayer, or do you actually just wait? I mean, you could armor up here, I guess?
He might actually go for Whirlwind Battle Rage. It seems a lot to... So it seems a lot of resources to egg in, because Whirlwind effectively does nothing other than draw you a card. But in this situation, he can't play any minions. He has Battle Rage in hand. He gains a card from himself as well. So you know what? Like, draw 2 cards. Whirlwind probably not going to do too much against OTK Shaman. They're not building up a huge board.
Yeah, and you draw 2.
So yeah,
sure.
Why not just take this turn to cycle? Say, okay, you got your Doomsayer. I'm just going to have a bigger hand to then power forward next turn. There's Stormcrack drawing hand again from Dodje, and there are a lot of decent targets for Stormcrack.
There's the Mana Tide totem. Yep. And this is actually a great place to play it too. I mean, we know it's gonna probably die to a 4/3, but I mean it's.
Well, it's draw a card. Heal for 4. Heal for 3/4 to a certain extent. So It does just soak 4 damage and drew him a card anyway.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, he's running Ancestral Knowledge as well. So all these cards that would have been
there's
so impactful last game.
He wasn't drawing any additional cards last game that we saw.
Yep, so there's the Healing Wave and the Hex as well. So Stormcrack is actually an interesting choice. Obviously, it's clear white's in a deck like this that wants to stall. But the 4 damage is actually super important because it kills things like the Frothing Berserker, which, as we saw in some previous sets today, can actually just destroy whole games if they're left alive.
Yeah.
So that's pretty huge. But Thijs is looking pretty good with his hand as well. Maybe wants a weapon or some more maybe spells to do something.
Well, this game looking different from last game, where it's like Dodje has 9 cards in hand, whereas last game he was basically like top deck this.
Yeah, all because he's drawn a couple of his card draw mechanics,
definitely.
right? So, you know, this is more
your engine going.
Yeah, this is more how he wants the deck to look, as opposed to drawing one card every turn and hoping it's playable.
Hoping it's relevant.
Yeah. So Fire War Axe off the top for Thijs. Not bad. He can clear off the Thanos if he really wants to, as well as just drop down a Frothing Berserker or just a Bloodtooth Brave. It fits the curve more, and whenever you just drop Bloodtooth on the board, it's just you're always representing just a threat to your opponent, right? You're just like, how are you going to kill this? It's either going to soak up a couple of minions normally, or you need to hex it.
And there you go.
And when you're playing cards like Malkorok, Ragnaros Varian in your deck, hexing a Bloodtooth Brave feels pretty good for the warrior. You're like, yeah, okay, you can hex that.
Yeah, just
2/6
becoming
later.
a 5X is just very, very good.
Oh, is he going to actually put a Froth in? This is a tactic that's used so much with this deck 'cause it's so powerful.
Thijs Blade be thirsty.
Yeah, we've gone on about Bloodtooth Brave being really awkward to deal with, but when you put a Frothing Berserker hidden behind
it, right?
What does he do?
All right, attack into my taunt guy, I guess, and I'll make this guy a million. Well, 1,000,004, I guess.
The only thing to think about as well is, although obviously Dodje is quite heavily overloaded this turn, he does have Leroy, Rockbiter, Wind Fury, Lightning Bolt in hand.
Once
the
mana's there, I think he might have something going here.
Even to a certain extent, because the Shaman is on 30 health. He's not like he's under health pressure at the moment.
Yeah.
He could actually just hex the Bloodtooth, kill off the 0/1 taunt, of course, and then maybe just play the Mana Tide. Sorry, he can't do both because I thought he had coin for some reason. So he can hex and just push forward. Maybe that's one of the issues there. He just leaves the Bloodtooth Brave up for this turn. But all he needs to do is create an opening so Leroy can get through, right? He can't have a Bloodtooth Brave on the board when he wants to play Leroy. So he is going to remove the Frothing Berserker there with that with the Lightning Bolt, choosing to use a burst option because he just respects a Frothing Berserker. Yeah, we've all been there. You go, you know what? I think I'm safe leaving this guy up one turn, then you die.
It's definitely a card that commands respect. To be fair.
Yeah, you can get in some awkward situations where concede is normally the play after you leave a Frothing Berserker alive. So I completely respect that play from Dodje there. Just get it off the board. He can deal with this taunt later with a Hex.
It's funny looking at Ty's hand because his hand looks very, very good, right? Like all these cards are very good.
Yeah, I mean, this is not a bad hand at all. Probably wants to start looking into the Ragnaros, the Grom, the Varian for like the back end of the game and like the burst finish. Because at the moment, I think Thijs is just focused on creating awkward situations for Dodje, so he can't put together his combo and just get it off quite easily.
Yeah, I wonder if he's going to try to focus on just amassing armor now, just to try to avoid that situation.
Yeah, and this is, again, I really like this because what Thijs is doing is saying, okay, which minion do you deal with? Can you deal with both?
Right.
If you can, fair enough. But if you can't, then there's going to be some issues for you.
Yeah, and they're both pretty big.
Yeah, and because on this board, you kind of just want to slam Emperor because you're reducing so many brilliant cards. Like 2 Rockbiters become 0 mana, Wind Fury's 1. You know, it gets like really, really silly.
Emperor becomes disgusting.
Yeah, and you're basically hitting all your combo pieces, right? Which is exactly what you want to do. But
I think he's doing it. Yeah, his hand is stacked right now. So like, I think Emperor even triggering once is just huge. And it might set him up for a win next turn if he can deal with this taunt.
Yeah, this is scary though. This is brave from Dodje, and I like it. But you know, Thijs Tice has a lot of power behind him anyway. He could play his second Bloodtooth Brave. He can just slam and execute. Why not? It buffs his Frothing Berserker with the slam anyway. This is definitely getting scary. And a second Armor Smith.
That's a lot of Armor Smiths.
He can... So there's two options here. He could just play the Bloodtooth Brave and say, I know you need to win by playing Leroy. How do you Leroy through two 6-health creatures that have Taunt? But he could actually just play the Armor Smiths behind it and then just say, okay.
You could just play one Armor Smith,
yeah.
one Brave, and then you just kind of get the best of both worlds there.
Yeah, and whenever you have to deal with the Bloodtooth, then you're just pushing yourself further out of range of combo anyway because of the Armor Smith.
Looks like I think he's going with that line where he's just like, 2 taunters, like I kind of need this cushion, especially after you just decrease the cost. He looks like his head. Look at his. I mean, he's got his head in his hands. He's really tanking hard on this decision.
Yeah, it's really important because there were a couple of decent options, but I like the Bloodtooth Brave here because a 6-health taunt and a 5-health taunt are very difficult to get through, as well as then dealing with the Frothing Berserker or killing your opponent. And there simply just isn't enough mana and cards that can really deal with both here.
And Leroy gets Wind Fury, but Wind Fury only gets 2 attacks, not like 4. So Halaziel Elemental Destruction is the first combo people thought of when they saw that legendary. It's like clear a board, heal for 1,000,000. Yes.
So that's really interesting. It's no surprise that he plays Ele Destruction in this deck. And a Doomsayer as well. Okay.
10 cards in hand.
The problem is he can't guarantee... Well, he just can't kill the Bloodtooth, right? Because he can't roll for spell power and play the Halaziel if he wants to heal from it.
Elemental Destruction. Let's see what happens. 1 down. Oh, 2 down. That was pretty good. Jeez, that's probably like the best you could have asked for, I think.
Yeah, I mean, he could have done 1 additional damage to Bloodtooth, but you know what? As long as 2 of the minions died, he didn't really care.
Here we go, Doomsayer. Yeah, he's setting it up.
And the Berserker always dying was guaranteed, so that was always nice. And yeah, just drops the Doomsayer and says, okay, you're going to have to kill this. And now you only have 1 taunt on 2 health, as opposed to 2 taunts on like 5 and 6 health. So the board has changed very swiftly here.
Yes, this is a drastic change, and it feels like he could probably break through this somehow.
Yeah, it's definitely rough.
Especially because Doomsayer is going to take care of the other taunter, so...
Yeah, well, I just think Tice has to execute at this point. I think you just need a taunt there, because what you have to say to your opponent is, you need to kill my taunt and kill me in like the burst combinations. You need to do both, and that's quite difficult.
Attack with both.
Yeah,
just fine too. Save the execute maybe.
Yep, I mean, he can play Korkron. Oh, he's just going to execute. Okay, so what he's doing now is he's just putting pressure on his opponent.
He's going to deal 9.
He's saying, like, okay, instead of me being defensive, now you have to just, like, answer me. And if you can't heal, or if you're trying to heal and be defensive, then you're not bursting me down.
Yes.
And all Tice needs now is, like, a Varian or a Ragnaros to really just pile the pressure on.
Armor made to fit.
Yep. Wild Pyro, not too great now that the Armor Smith's on the board, as the AoE like 1 damage effects are only going to gain Tice more and more health. But the benefit for Dodje is that Tice is only on 1 card and really needs something big off the top to continue to pressure.
I mean, the pressure is there, but I mean, Dodje can definitely deal with it. Like, it's not like it's insurmountable right now, especially because his hand is stacked. I think he's trying to conserve cards to keep his combo alive, but if he doesn't, if he has to do otherwise, then he could. Oh well, Healing Wave is pretty solid, especially. Ooh, you did not win that one.
Yeah, Tice is like, yep. You know, if you want to joust, then joust against my 10 mana guy. Like, why not?
Here you go. This is as big as it gets.
Yeah, and this is where actually Tice's game plan could alter. We just saw Dodje there, just hovering over Rockbiter to potentially kill off this Bloodtooth. There's still multiple, like, there's still what 5 damage on the board after that, and Tice might actually say, oh. There's 1 Rockbiter gone. Do I just spam Armor now?
Yeah.
And just say, you will actually just never kill me, whilst, you know, poking away with the minions he has on the board to just keep pressuring Dodje, but...
How do you feel about Armor Smith into Blood Taker on one of the Armor Smiths?
Yeah, I mean, why not? That's a play he can make next turn if he feels he's under pressure, but he's on what? He's on like 35 health, and his opponent's lost a Rockbiter now, like, and he has 2 Armor Smiths on board. Oh, this Wild Pyro. If he Wild Pyros into Lightning Storm to clear the board,
that's like a million.
It's
like
gonna
a million
hurt.
Armor.
It's gonna hurt. Oh, he's just playing them as minions, right?
Oh no!
He's going for it. Yeah. So Tice is kind of confused here, but the totem, if the totem was spell power, it like guarantees a board clear. But because it was a 1/1, it actually ends up just dying anyway, which is kind of funny.
17 armor. Not too. Oh, that was a good draw.
Yep, I'm pretty sure you.
Did you run Armor Smith in the 3/1 and then play Ragnaros?
Yeah, I'm thinking about Blood to
Blood to
Ica,
Ica?
but I think you're okay saving Blood to Ica because it doesn't really do too much on this board. You just run the Armor Smith anyway. It's only got 1 health, so it's going to die to any spell next turn with Pyros on the board. But I think you trade in.
Trade there, and you can also use Hero Power.
If Thijs draws Grom, he has a activator. He can Blood to Iku's own Grom for extra damage, so I think holding on to that's completely fine.
And Thijs essentially at 48 life right now.
Ooh.
Pretty solid.
Wow, Pyromancer, you know, taking one for the team there and just tanking 8 to face. Hex is a pretty good answer to Ragnaros, though, as that's just going to get removed. And Thijs, again, is in the situation where he just needs something big. And I think it's going to have to be Varian, because at this moment in time, if Halaziel gets, you know, manages to get some spells off and get some healing down, then Grom just isn't going to be enough for now. Ravaging Ghoul isn't going to do too much here, is he? He actually kills his own Hex
kill
creature.
your own frog.
You could Blood to Ica Ravaging Ghoul just to put stuff on the board, but again, it just Thijs is out of cards and probably really just wants a Battle Rage, or like I said before, mainly just a Varian to either, you know, flood the board again or just draw cards. Basically, he just wants more options.
No way to do that yet, though.
So this is really tough. Thijs is just actually trying to work out now whether he can afford to just
play Ravage.
Just whether he can afford to just sit and armor up and pass, because at this point in the game, Hero Power pass on 10 mana, so you flow 8, really doesn't feel too great.
No, it feels like such a waste.
But what does like Ravaging Ghoul actually do? He is going to go for the Blood Taker Ravaging Ghoul.
You trade your Taunter for their Taunter.
Yeah. And also, you just got 2 minions versus 1, which is important for like Battle Rage potential. It gives you the odds of having a minion you can damage next turn and maybe cycle a few more cards. Another healing wave for Dodje, so he has all the options to heal up. He could just LE Destruction if he really wants to, but probably isn't needed. He's just trying to sit and count how much damage he actually has. That's like, so he'll have 18 from Leroy Rockbiter, Wind Fury, but he's just got so much time. He might have to try and rely. He's even healing Halaziel. He has to rely on maybe.
Still lost that one too. Has not won a
hang on. So, oh my god. Okay, so I'm just looking at that faceless and then going, okay. So you have Leroy Rockbiter, Wind Fury, faceless. That's 36.
It's funny because so many of the cards Thijs versus reeled off the joust have been very, very good. Like it was a Grom, you know.
Varian.
Yeah, like all of his legendaries get revealed off of the joust and just doesn't actually draw them though.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. I think Thijs would actually rather lose the joust and actually have the cards. I've already drawn them by now.
I'd rather you gain an extra 7 and I'll just draw this Grom.
Yeah, I think that's the heal on Halaziel was really interesting with the healing wave, because that could have potentially put Dodje back up to full life, whereas 16 isn't that much when cards like Grom and even Malkorok is probably in the deck.
Meanwhile,
so, you know, that equips another weapon to push more damage as well.
Yeah, meanwhile, Thijs is a virtual 50-52 right now, which is just kind of ridiculous.
Just trading for the tome there, just, you know, one-on-one. Monkey versus Halaziel on the board there. That healing totem actually isn't too bad, because we've seen that Dodje wants this guy alive. So the healing totem's just got to tick over time unless there's an execute drawn. Acolyte of Pain helps in terms of card draw, but it is almost certainly just going to 1-for-1 here and just draw, like, you know, replace itself.
Yeah.
And not really draw more than
He is
once.
going to go into the next turn with 2 cards, presumably, if there is a next turn. Is he going to faceless manipulate?
Oh. Okay. Normally when this happens, I'm like, oh, okay, it just must be lethal. But I don't think
it's lethal.
It is. I think he's going to Lightning Storm.
All right.
Yep. He's got Lightning Storm, remove the tokens and say, can you actually deal with this 6-2 with Wind Fury? But there's still Halaziel up. Lightning Storm does heal him for 6, which is really nice. And now Thijs is a bit like, oh, okay,
there we go.
Varian. But my problem now is Varian just like a turn too late? because there's still a lot of damage available.
Yeah, there is. There's 18 damage from Leroy Jenkins
So
alone next
Grom
turn.
is key. He needs Grom to be able to kill off the Leroy. Oh! There it is.
That was so good.
Yeah, so I'm pretty certain he's going to kill off this Windfjord Leroy, and suddenly,
wow.
I think that might actually just be game, because Faceless Manipulator on Talazeel won't do enough. All it will do is potentially stall and stall and stall. He can get a lot of healing from Elemental Destruction, almost certainly clearing the board this turn, but still, it's a tough one.
Wow, those are some great hits.
Yeah, to be honest, there wasn't much left.
That's true. That's definitely
Tice
relevant.
pretty much had a lot of his key cards left in the deck. Probably it's a bit of a shame for Tice's Weaponsmith was pulled, because although it's it's a 3/3, it's decent. The 2/2 weapons also very nice to just chip away at totems and push for more damage.
Oh, well, this should take care of the everything else. Man, these games are so grindy too. Like it's always they're very swingy back and forth.
Yeah, this is really weird though. Oh, there's Malkarok.
Yes.
Cursed Blade incoming.
Well, we've definitely found all the legendaries.
Yep. Well, I think there's still a Cairn or Sylvanas left in the deck, more than likely. I don't think we've seen either, and I'm pretty confident most of these mid-range warriors play one or the other. Cairn being the more standard version, but I've seen a lot of players move over to Sylvanas just because of the impact it has versus N'Zoth decks a lot of the time.
You can see Ty's trying to figure out what's left in his deck, maybe, or what's in Dodge's hand.
Tice, please play Malkarok.
Just
I want to see a Doomhammer come out. I want to see either. I'm all or nothing. I want to see Doomhammer or Cursed Blade.
Interesting. Why did he not? Why do you think he didn't play it there?
He might actually just be thinking that he can win through fatigue at this point, because if he just never dies, like, how is the Shaman going to get enough damage to kill him, right?
Yeah, he might just be figuring you don't have enough threats left in your deck.
And also, he knows his opponent has a Faceless left. So does he want to give him a potentially Faceless 7/6? And then so he can push more damage? Maybe not. So I'm pretty sure that Tice is just saying,
I'm gonna gain 2 every turn.
Yeah, let's see what happens.
Yeah, this is actually I like this. I like this line a lot, actually.
Because he knows Faceless is still a card, right?
Yeah.
So if he plays Cairn, he's gonna get Faceless. So his opponent has Cairn, and what benefit? Is his opponent having Cairn and you having Cairn worse than no one having anything? Look, the Shaman's on fatigue.
Yeah.
And there's Hex as well. So Tice knows that he can Dodgy can Faceless a creature like a Cairn or Malkarok, and then Hex his opponents, and then get ahead like that. So
Battle Rage being the last card in your deck is kind of funny.
Very frustrating. But we'll see what Tice chooses to do. I imagine Tice has probably done
nothing.
He's probably done the maths. He's going to take 1 damage a turn. He knows there's there's like 7 damage left in the deck, and there we go.
Yeah. They both knew. It's like,
Yep.
well, I can't win with these options in my hand, so that's the end. Wow.
Yeah, exactly. He knew there was only a certain amount of damage left in the deck, and this is where we see the difference between players knowing the deck lists and not.
Yeah, definitely.
Because
And you can see Tice is like,
yeah, Tice is like, you have Faceless, there's 1 Rock Bite still left, Lava Shock, so you can only do X damage. If I armor up, you're already behind on fatigue, so I will just win. I heal for 2 every turn.
yeah, these games have been crazy. I'm surprised. Like both of these games were pretty intense. Like the way they ended was quite surprising. Like I didn't expect them to go the way they did,
Yeah, it's a really odd one when you think mid-range warrior versus OTK Shaman going to fatigue.
Both of those matches were fatigue-based wins.
Exactly. So Dodgy does have his Shaman again left. Maybe this is the deck that makes him fall down, but maybe he has won with it before to get to this point. So
or maybe they're just gonna get fatigued again.
Yeah, the deck has worked, and Tice is gonna have his Reno lock with the Leroy Burst combo in hand as his last deck. And if I was Tice, I'll be feeling pretty confident because he had a rough game, first game with the Reno list.
Yeah.
But that's like 1 game. It can happen.
Yeah.
Whereas
definitely.
Reno is actually a very strong deck. We've seen a lot of players
so
far bring it.
We saw the draws in that game, and they weren't great. He definitely was just at the mercy of the draws there. So
yeah, and Tice there with, as we said, the Reno lock, and Dodgy is like, no, this Shaman will win a game on stream. So he has got his Halazeel in hand.
The commitment
again.
is real.
Yeah, and you know what though? It's really interesting. Both decks run Burst, and both decks have to really think about what health they're on and the board state every single turn.
Yeah.
So like Tice is gonna probably, as the late game turns up, probably like, I kind of need a taunt down every single turn because the Leroy Faceless combo can just burst you for literally like just a full OTK.
And speaking of Leroy, we have both
they're both raring to go
with Leroy's in hand.
Yeah, this is it's going to be such a weird game because it's just both players playing around weird health totals of like,
Yeah.
I'm at 23 health, I don't feel safe.
Am I dead?
Yeah,
Okay,
what do
go.
I do?
Yeah, that's so funny. Like, it's not something I think we've seen since like the old days of like Miracle Rogue.
Yeah. Yeah, the old like Shadow Step.
Yes,
versions,
exactly.
With Leroy.
Attack with Leroy,
That nice
bounce my
four-mana
Leroy.
Leroy.
Yeah.
We all miss.
Do we?
I used to love that deck, actually, so yes, I'm going to say that. Although I'd not played Rogue too much recently, which is strange for me, but we are going to see the Doomsayer come down. A really good turn 2 for any late-game deck. You just drop it down and say, let's just skip a turn, guys.
Yeah,
let's move
reset.
on.
Yeah. Things have started too soon. We'll just reset the board a little bit.
Yep. Dodje there actually just playing the Wild Pyro just to actually just put on some pressure because this card is in for the anti-aggro matchups, right?
Yes.
Like this, Wild Pyro does so much work versus Zoo, versus Shaman, well, more mid-range aggressive Shamans, and other sort of decks with small creatures in, but Reno Lock doesn't really have that, so I kind of like, you know what, I'm just going to play 3-2 behind a Taunt Totem. It's going to hit you for 3 every turn unless you kill it. Like, you got to do something, right? And he's going to respond with, here's my own Doomsayer.
Back
your turn.
Round and round we go.
Okay, so again, Dodje getting the Mana Tide Totem, which he can't. Well, you can hex the Doomsayer if it's worth it. I'm not sure. I think I would actually just hit for 3 and be like, yeah, okay, Tice, fine.
Yeah, just kill. Yeah, it's you're losing 1 totem in a 3/2. It's like it's basically a pretty fair trade.
Yeah, and I don't think there's any. I'm not sure which goes off first, the Mana Tide or the Doomsayer. But I don't think it would be worth to just use Mana Tide to draw 1 card there either. I think you're okay just putting it down afterwards.
It's just replacing itself at that
exactly.
point.
So coin into life tap to just cycle the card there, draw 1 more just to fill out the coin that isn't really going to get too much value later on in the game as the extra 1 mana. Not going to do too much, and being able to play a 4/10 on the board. So now Tice is putting the pressure on, and it is going to eat a Hex.
And a Hex. Yeah, this is a fine series because he should be able to draw at least 2 cards, I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, the interesting part about both players have done that we've seen, they're both playing like combo decks with a lot of healing and have a lot of burst, and both players are just trying to just do that little bit extra pressure, right? Because especially like Leroy, Reno, you want to put them around 20, obviously, because the combo does 20 as standard.
That's like the sweet spot,
but you just want minions that can just like, just push a little bit, get an attack in here and there to pressure your opponent, and make your opponent react instead of them being proactive and really setting up their own combo. Speaking of proactive players, Hero Power Doomsayer. Tice is happy with this.
Well, you know what they say, the end is coming.
Yeah, he can actually just straight up snipe that Doomsayer. He can run the 2/4 into the totem and then just Kodo it, and actually holds onto a pretty strong board then.
The stamina code is pretty solid here, actually. Just kill the Doomsayer. Yeah, and then you're left with a 2/4/0 taunt and a Kodo 2/5, right?
3/5.
3/5.
Yeah, and he can life tap as well, which is really nice. You just keep the cycle up. Because effectively, the Warlock will always win a card draw race because they can just guaranteed do it every turn if they want, whereas Shaman's going to rely much more on those actual card draw mechanics in the form of Mana Tide.
Yeah, you're going to actually have to play your spells to do it, whereas I just can use my natural hero power.
I'll just pay 2 mana and 2 life to draw a card. It seems pretty reasonable. And again, Dodge's answer is just hero power pass. There's like nothing else to do. Whereas Tice now, before we look at anything in his hand, can just hit Dodge for 5. And like that doesn't sound like too much, but when he has the opportunity to burst later for 20, 5 suddenly makes quite a big difference.
Is it me, or was there not as many situations in the previous format where you would have 10 cards in your hand this frequently? It feels like there's a lot more situations now where your hands are just full.
Yeah, I mean, pre-standard, the game was maybe, or the meta game was a little bit faster.
Yeah.
But also, we are seeing 2 combo decks. This would happen previously as well, like in any slow decks, like Freeze Mage versus Reno Warlock, and normally both players playing with a lot of cards in hand. So Flame Imp, not too fantastic there. It's a decent minion, but he doesn't really want to take the damage to himself as well because he could just die. But he does have the Ascendant Shield Master to taunt up, and as you said, it's getting to the point in the game now, although we've not seen Emperor, it's getting to the point in the game where you now have to start thinking about that combo damage, right?
Yeah, definitely. He's at 19. Like, it's definitely possible, especially when you know he hasn't played that many cards.
Yeah, and there's an early destruction.
That was a good one.
Yeah, it doesn't kill off the Ascension though, so this is really nice. Just a Wild Pyromancer, Lava Shock base, resets all of those crystals, so it's not going to be overloaded, and keeps a minion on board.
Yeah, that was a very good turn. It's like we were saying earlier. Like, there's a lot of swings in these matches, in these games so far. Like, that was, you know, you went from Tyz having about 4 or 5 minions on the board to having none, and Dodje having a 3-1 and an 0-2.
Yeah, and the scary thing for Tyz is the Lava Shock that followed up after Elemental Destruction, because normally if your opponent plays Destruction, you're like, okay, his next turn is not going to be very good.
Because you're all overloaded.
Yeah, but now he's cleared that off. Tyz is going to clear off the 2 minions himself with his own AoE and follow up with a Flame Imp. And again, this is where we just see the heal and the taunt, because he's like, oh, I might just die if I don't taunt up this turn.
Double taunt is extremely relevant in these situations. And we know he has Leroy, we know he has...
Yeah. I really like this as well from Dodje. What he's doing is he's saying, like, I cleared the board, I could potentially kill you next turn. And now what he tried to do, at least, if he didn't low roll a couple of times, is say, I'm going to clear the board again. Now you have to play as if I have lethal again.
Right.
And that always, when you put your opponent in that position, it always throws them off and means they're not playing optimally.
Yeah, you have to play completely differently. And you kind of always have to assume that they could have lethal as well. So you have to play in such a way that they might.
Yeah, exactly. And Reno, really good pick. Really good draw off the top there. Just gives Tyz a little bit more security. He can just play Reno now if he wants to and say, okay, like, I'm back up at 30. I have more time for you to try and defend against this potential like huge OTK combo.
And he kind of has to play because you and I know that he has Leroy and Wind Fury in hand. So that's actually 12 damage right there, and he was at 15.
Yep. The problem now is we see those 2 cards in hand from Dodje for so long, the Leroy and the Wind Fury, but without the rest and without some heavy cycle, it's going to be very difficult for him to do anything on this board, especially after Tyz has played Reno. He's back up to full, and he has a Leroy and a Power Overwhelming of his own, and now he has the Faceless. Doesn't have Emperor yet, so can't play it all together, but even the potential of a 10 damage burst is pretty nice. And there's Rag. Okay. Or you can just tap Rag after it's just won you a joust, and then Rag and go, oh, you healed for 7? Like, okay, there's 8.
It's almost like the game just put it right on top after they jousted. Oh, here you go.
I always thought it would be interesting if Joust took the top minion, you know, like the highest minion on the top of your deck.
Yes.
And then jousted that, so then you could say, oh, he's going to draw that card.
Yeah, and then
so
you can kind of predict it or play around it, but then when it's like a Ragnaros, you're like, oh, no.
Yeah. Please. So we're going to see another Hex use, so I think that's both gone for this game because he hexed the Twilight Drake earlier.
Yeah, that should be both of his hexes.
Yeah, it takes the Stormcrack as well to kill off Leroy and empty the board.
Running out of cards, but he's got a lot of relevant cards in his hand is the thing. Like, he's got 2 out of the 3 combo pieces.
Yep.
But, you know, Tyz is at 28 now, which is a little far out of range.
I would actually just like Hellfire and maybe even Hellfire and just Spellbreaker. Because what you do is you put them to 11, you need 1 damage, and Leroy, or you just tap into Thorsten.
That's pretty
Tyz
good.
is really good at doing this.
Yeah,
this tap first and play a really good minion that he's just drawn game.
Or the, you know, hey, I'm just going to draw legendaries every turn in the late game.
Yeah, why not? Why not? So Tyz going to play Emperor. This, I mean, I can't imagine a world where Dodje wasn't going to play Healing Wave next turn anyway. Just because he's at a low health, and now seeing Emperor, you're like, oh no.
Yeah.
Like he's actually just conceded.
I guess that's the end.
Okay. That's a pretty crazy game. Tyz takes it 3-1, and Dodje there just doesn't, just struggled with that Shaman list. It was really crazy. He just couldn't get a win. Fair enough that he stuck with it to just try and he has to win with it at some point if he wants to take the whole set, right? But it's just failing him every single time. That was really rough for him, I think.
Every step of the way.
Yeah, I was here the whole time watching it.
I know, I saw you there.
Yeah, it was really exciting.
I kept winking at you.
Yeah, you guys just never let me talk. It was a little disappointing. No, I would say that's a great series by Tyz, showcasing some really great technical play. You know, Especially the end of that Warrior game, realizing that he just didn't even have to play
I don't have to play a spell. Yeah, I don't have to play anything else. I've done the math. You're going to fatigue. Let's just. I like. It looked like he even knew the cards that he had left in his deck, and he just said, "Nothing you can do. It can kill me."
Yeah, it was pretty cool to see, and that's one of the other benefits of sort of knowing the decks. You know, those situations where you can technically, I don't want to say outplay, because you just make the correct plays in these certain situations because you know exactly the potential.
I would say that's outplaying, though, because you're running the numbers, and you're keeping a mental calculation of like what they have and haven't played, which is not easy to do because you can't. It's harder to reference earlier stuff in the game, So he's like, you played one of this, two of these, and then it rewards like meticulousness, like being.
I was going to say, it's something to remember that it's not like these players have the deck list in front of them and they can just be like, oh, yeah, okay, I've got this. Okay, he's played that. They actually it's pure memory. They've seen the deck lists beforehand and then they've just had to memorize every single card played. And that was pretty clear that Thijs had that nailed down. He was like, I know exactly what's left and I know if I just keep armoring up, I will win this game.
Yeah, well, big congratulations to Thijs. He'll be moving on in the preliminary. But we're going to toss it over to Dan now, who's standing by with Rob Wing to give us some updates on what's going on throughout the rest of the Europe preliminary.
Thank you very much, TJ. I'm Frodan. I'm joined by Robert Wing, and we're here to do some updates on what's happening. Now, in the beginning of the show, if anybody's tuned in, they asked us to do a draft of players. Now, some people were like, well, you didn't pick any duplicates because that's what the draft is. We went in snake order and went like this. However, as the day progressed, we have had players who are succeeding and some who are not as successful. And Rob, you picked Blackcat and Green Sheep. Once again, you feel confident in those picks?
Yeah, there's nothing you can say that will ever make me feel not confident in those picks.
All right, well, unfortunately, they are the first two players to be eliminated. I'll give you the honors here.
I can't help but notice you said first. They came in first. That's something.
Oh, get wrecked.
No, hey, you guys played your heart out. I appreciate it. Like I said, they're both very good players. They've worked super hard, so no doubt we'll be seeing them in future tournaments.
Yeah, that's right. We've been seeing some other players also progress through. Osaka won his third series. He's 3-0. And I think Crane is also playing next on stream against Tars, which is a really cool thing. Tars is a player that's been catching everyone's eye with his deck building. Some players are also going through the winner's bracket, but I do believe Stansifka also just recently lost to Faramir, another player that's been coming back in recent times. So it's a very competitive list indeed, but definitely a lot of these players are still in the winner's bracket. Of course, we just saw Thijs. Frank's pick just take his previous series, so a job well done. I've been having a lot of fun, Rob. What's been the highlight for you so far?
Really just the prevalence of Yogg-Saron. I know it's one of those things where, it's very divided with the community as far as like whether Yogg-Saron should be here, but it's been fun to see players bring him. So.
Divided between who? It's the people who want absolutely no uncontrollable outcomes.
Right.
It's like the people who are super competitive that really wants it. But I think the overwhelming majority, especially judging based off social media engagement as well as all the forum posts, I think people are really receptive towards the Yogg-Saron.
He's a fun old guy. He's the fun one. So.
All right, well, we're done here in the prediction boards. Thijs Denton taking his series. We're going to head to a break, but don't go anywhere. When we come back, we're going to have Tars versus Crane in the winner's bracket. Make sure to hashtag HCT, as well as tweet us at PlayHearthstone or Facebook.com/Hearthstone. I'm Frodan. He's Robert Wing. When we come back, more action here from day one of the EU Spring Preliminaries.